And we're live. Welcome everybody to the new and improved version of Well That Didn't Work. We're the band formerly known as Well That Didn't Work. We've made a change. You've probably noticed by getting this notification. Yeah, Rick has taken over. Hostile takeover. He has grabbed the reins and he has fully pushed me out of the GM chair for today.
Yes.
We'll see how long that lasts.
You're welcome.
We'll see who you're thinking of.
I know.
We've made a brand change, just moving into year 2 of the podcast and the vidcast. We decided we wanted to kind of attract more people to what we were doing, and Well That Didn't Work was really funny, and it was a great inside joke for us, and we've gotten to know you guys really well over that medium. We wanted to bring more people into the stories that we tell because we think that they're awesome. So far, you guys who are listening think that they're awesome, so we want more people to hear that stuff, and I think especially moving into year 2, Rick and Mike are taking a bigger lead in telling some of those stories, and I think they've got some great stuff planned. I've heard some of the deals that they've got going on in the back of their mind, and so I'm really excited for those, and so we've made this shift to calling ourselves TableTop NerdCast. So I'm really excited about it. It was a long deliberation. It lasted about 2 months of us talking through kind of what our ideals would be going forward and getting into the second year. So we've got a new logo up. You can see that right now if you're on the video. If you're not on the video, just swing over to our Podbean website and you'll be able to see all this new stuff.
Personally, I think it was really just, 1 week of discussion and 3 months of arguing over the logo. I think that's what it really was.
I subtly brought up for a little while, like, I don't know if this is working with the name. Just a couple of weeks at a time, just kind of swinging it in. And one day I just texted Mike. I was like, we need to change the name. This isn't working anymore.
No, it's not. But hey, guess what? It'll work.
That's right.
It
worked. Well, that didn't work.
It was great. I loved that name. It was so much fun. And we're still keeping the Not Working Crew. Like, that's kind of what we're still calling ourselves. So like our Twitter will still stay that, our email address is still going to stay that. That's going to kind of be the umbrella over which all of this other stuff that we're going to start doing falls. And I'm sure we'll have a bunch of other new crazy awesome stuff coming out this year, especially with like the Genesis Foundry. We're going to be putting stuff all over that. We've got a lot of big plans for what we want to do, and we hope we're able to do some of it.
And for those of you that have stuck around with us, you'll probably see in the background we have a completely new or revamped studio. So no more black sheets hanging in the background.
Well, not no more. We do have one.
But it's being used to have an overlay on there, so I think we're okay.
That's right.
But we did revamp the studio, new equipment, new table, new stories. We're starting this off almost like we're starting from scratch again. So,
yeah, the only story that's continuing from year 1 is going to be Warrior's Path. We're going to keep going with our Legend of the Five Rings campaign until it's done and dead. And I've got a lot of things. I got a lot of things planned for that, especially you, Miyamoto.
So I got to be nice to you tonight.
Udell got the brunt end of the stick during Star Wars.
It was great. It was great. We're good.
And you guys, I haven't told y'all this yet. We do have another subscriber on Patreon. So thanks so much, MBN, for joining our team. That could be you that we're clapping for right now. If you just head over to patreon.com.
We have a little bell die we can ring.
That's true. We do have dice that jingle.
You hear that?
Which reminds me, for those of you that are just catching up with us, go ahead and subscribe, go ahead and hit the like, and ring the bell so you know every time we got something coming out. We cover a whole bunch of different stuff, not just games.
Yeah, we do. And head over to patreon.com/notworkingcrew and drop us a line there. Even if you just subscribe to our Patreon so you see the things that we post.
There's a link on YouTube.
There is a link. There's a link on YouTube, Twitch, everywhere. We've got stuff posted up all over the place.
And there's links to everything we have, even the podcast from YouTube, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely. So subscribe to your heart's content, and we hope to see you there. But today we're starting a new campaign.
What is it?
Yeah.
What are we playing?
Piercing the Crystal Veil. This is a campaign written by Rick, who, I don't know how long ago you wrote this thing. It's been a while now.
It's evolved like all campaigns.
It's evolved like all campaigns. But this is an entirely homebrewed world.
Yeah.
Well, not entirely. We are like kind of starting in Faerun and then moving into this new world, right? But it's an entirely homebrewed world with like all kinds of new nuances to different like familiar species.
Way to steal Rick's thunder.
And
Let's
so-
let him describe it.
Listen,
talking, huh?
you guys asked me to do this intro. Rick's like trying not to throw up over here. So.
It's not that bad.
No, I know.
See what I have to deal with
Yeah, I
here.
mean, it's different.
So finally, before I do hand it over to you, Rick,
He
I
should
wanted to
do just
introduce-
fine considering he put a bag up over a light in the studio.
Yes,
All right.
He
y'all
did.
can't see it, but
This great lighting is thanks to Rick's ingenuity.
Yeah. Part of it.
And just before we go into the actual game, I want to introduce a couple of new cast members we
Yes,
have
please.
sitting at the table. We got Peter, who
Hello,
was
everybody.
invited in by Mike. Peter, tell us just like in a couple of quick sentences some of your gaming history.
I've been gaming since I was a kid in elementary school. I've played most of the games out there on the market, both current and well dead.
Very cool. And we brought in Tama. We all know Tama pretty well, but tell us a little bit about your gaming history.
I started playing D&D with AD&D when I was around 12 years old with my big brother and his friends. Didn't play for several years. Then went to the gaming section at Comic Palooza and started playing there with my son, who was 10 at the time. And within 2 or 3 years, we opened our own game store focused on D&D. So
And what's the name of that game?
Golem
That's right.
State.
Well, we're gonna give her a shot at saying that name one more time. But that's right. We actually have a game store owner at the table with us for this.
Absolutely, and it's a great game.
It's like
And
she's
that's
not
how-
sponsoring us.
And that's kind of how we met.
No, that's
too.
our shame.
If it
There's the
hadn't-
bell.
if it hadn't been for Golem's Gate, we would not have
That is
met.
that's
so
actually
correct.
very
it's
true.
Kind of
I
birthed
did.
this whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
Mike, Rick, and I all met at Golem's Gate playing at one of the tables. I think we
Star
met
Wars.
mostly playing my Star Wars game.
Yes, it was.
At Golem's Gate. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you guys have an online presence or anything you want to point anybody to?
Just Facebook.
Just
Very cool.
Facebook.
Yeah,
So-
like Golem's Gate, Gaming and Geekdom. I think, what do y'all
Yeah.
call it? Friends of Golem's Gate or something
There's
like
a
that?
Friends of Golem's Gate. There's a couple of different ones. Just search Golem's Gate and
Yeah.
ask to join. And then other than that, meetup.com/Golem's Gate is where you find our calendar of games.
Yeah, if you're in the Houston area, we'd love to have you join us for some games.
Absolutely.
We all, at some point in time,
And it's not
Are
just...
there
Go right back to the game store.
No, there's a lot of different games that run.
Yeah.
they really are, yeah. All right, Rick, this is your table. Take it over.
All right. Well, this is a world that's kind of evolved, and I started doing it, I don't know, 10 years ago, I guess. And it's a little different, and like you said, some of the races and things are a little different. But we'll get right into it. Basically, there is... there was another world, and the gods got way too involved in this other world. So things were done to basically keep the gods from meddling in the world. And I won't tell you too much because you'll discover that as the campaign progresses. But some of the things that were done, you're going to find out. A few things maybe here tonight, but it pulled the world out of where it was, this particular place, and it dumped it into Faerun. And it's hard to get to. It involves, the name is Piercing the Crystal Veil, so crystals play a very big part in this world. The magic involved in the crystals and just, them in everyday life. So I'll try to get myself going here. I'll read a little thing that I've written to start, and then we'll. One of the other things that, for those of you that watch us regularly, we do a lot of Star Wars, and we play with narrative dice. And I've always liked the narrative dice, and I've tried to figure out how to incorporate that into D&D to get, because we have inspiration points, but you can't just throw those out like candy, okay? And people. You can, but you're only allowed to have one, so you use it every
At a
time.
time, yeah.
And I've noticed too that especially in AL games, people just tend to focus on tactics and combat, and it loses the flavor. For me, the flavor of the game is role playing, which is why I like all the other games we play, because it's very role playing heavy. In fact, in Percy's games, we don't do combat at all.
Yeah,
I mean, not at all.
That's not
but,
true.
But very minimal. We'll go weeks without a real combat, you know. And in D&D and in this campaign too, there'll be a lot of that. But D&D is very combat heavy, and so I wanted to incorporate something that will, one, make you think about it, and two, give you a bonus. So I incorporated the narrative dice, the yellow dice from the Star Wars, and they've got successes and triumphs on it. And this is new to Tama and Peter because they haven't seen this before. But when you roll this die, if you narrate, if you are very descriptive on any time you roll a 20-sided die, you can include this, and if you get one success, it's +1. If you get 2 successes, it's +2. If you get a triumph, it counts as a +1, and you get to institute something narratively into the scene, which could be, I swung at him, I didn't penetrate his armor class, but my swing unbalanced jug that's up on this shelf over here, and it falls off and basically causes him to move and gives him a -1 on his die or something like that. It could be mechanical, it could be strictly for flavor. Okay, but so you'll see us rolling these, and I've introduced it into my other game, which is actually this campaign, which I'm running with another group, so that I can flesh out, some of the...
Is that the one you're doing at the store?
Yes, that's the one I'm doing at the store. So I can flesh out some of the details, because one thing I've learned is, play testing is important,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll play test something, and then you'll go, dang, I didn't like that. And it doesn't mean just the combat, it's the way you role played it, the fluff, and also the feedback you get from people. A collaborative effort, especially when you're doing something creative, there's nothing like collaboration to bring out. That's why bands can be so successful, and one guy can go off and he's talented, but he never does what he did with the band, with the collaboration. So anyway, and that's what tonight is, a collaboration, and this game is a collaboration for us to hopefully y'all will enjoy it. Faerun is the world y'all know. Melanor is the world that you're soon going to get to know. And it's an exciting world, and there's some things in there. There's some races in the way that they play in there that I'm really excited. I think y'all will really enjoy. And there's some races that you will see that you've never seen before. In fact, one tonight, possibly. So, in Faerun, it started like any other day. But it was not to remain that way. A rift had opened through space and time. Whether it would have any serious effect on Faerun remains to be seen, but the effects it will have on the lands of Melanor would be great. A place seemingly recovered from the ravages of the Crystal War, fought over 1,000 years ago. The Vasha, as the Tieflings and their dark allies were called, were defeated by a combined host of dragons and the other races at the very doorsteps of Drassic Tor, their capital. But setting aside the greater implications, there is no doubt that this will have the most profound effect on 4 random people that you see sitting around you. They will be thrown into a new and dangerous world only to become part of a deadly game. It could test the very limits of what they believe is possible, and this is their story. So, that being said, Percy, would you like to tell us a little bit about your character?
Well, Nevi is a wood elf. He's very gruff. I think often people don't think of wood elves as having, or of elves in general, as having like body hair, but he definitely has a big beard. Other than that, like, he does have like the tight facial features. He's not gaunt, but he's very thin. And he has a surprisingly deep voice. He's got bluish dark hair that's always dirty. He's a druid. And so he's just kind of dressed in sticks and mud and furs, and that's just kind of how he lives life. He's we'll get to why that's important. He lives in the wild. He prefers to stay far away from urbanization as much as possible. And I don't know how much of my backstory you want me to kind of let in right now.
You can, yeah, go ahead. Give us your backstory.
Yeah, so he's recently married and recently widowed. He ran off with a girl that he knew, a ranger named, what did I name her? Mirabelle. She was the daughter of a noble in Neverwinter, and she had just been a ranger her whole life. She had left home and everything, but had always been expected to come back and marry up into the nobility of the city. And so we eloped. We went through kind of the rites of ceremony with a cleric that we knew mutually from one of the nature temples in Neverwinter Woods. And then one day shortly after that, I mean, we didn't really do a honeymoon because we just kind of lived and loved the wild. And so we were up in some mountains one day when the Spine of the World Mountains when this kind of cataclysm hit, and I won't describe too much of what that looks like. I want to kind of leave that to you. I know I gave a description in my backstory, but use as much of that as you want to, obviously. But in the process of these worlds kind of molding, it was almost like an implosion into an explosion, like we see, like when we see, like on sci-fi movies, stars kind of imploding. It was similar to that. Like it was just kind of a rushing wind sound, trees bending in, and then all of a sudden, blue light, and it felt like it was tearing up the world. And we ran, and eventually, in an effort to try to kind of throw her out of the way, I had turned into, I'm a druid, so I turned into a bear, tried to like toss her, and instead she got ripped up into kind of a crosswind and ripped into whatever this was and disappeared. And so my assumption is that she's dead, but then this is like 3 years after that, right? 2 years. It's a time after that, so we now know that there's this new world that's come in, so my hope is that she's in there somewhere, and then I can go in and find her. Yeah, I was wounded. I got kind of this crystal shard in the process of all that jammed into my shoulder. And so I think we're going to cover a bit about what that looks like in a minute.
Okay.
If memory serves. But yeah, that's kind of where I come from, and who Nevi is, ish. And we'll unpack the rest of it as we go.
Okay. And Tama?
All right. Hi, I'm Morale. I'm a Tabaxi Life Cleric. I was born on a farm, the runt of a litter of 8, and dedicated to the cat god at birth, and sent at a young age to the temple in Faerun, and grew up there. I am a little chubby. I clean myself often and very publicly, but I still don't seem to be able to reach everything. I think it might be the fat rolls that keep that from happening. But
So your name was Morale?
Morale.
Okay. We'll make a note of that.
All right. Okay, and Peter?
Dresdenova Ramathay, half-elf, noble from Silvery Moon. Basically, his thing is, running back and forth between various different cities in the Lord's Alliance, doing treaties and such like that, and, minor functionary. And when he's not doing that, just researching magic. He's a wizard. So in his off time, he tries to do as much research and spellcasting as he can. For an adventurer, he's got kind of a boring life ahead of before.
So he's more like a diplomat almost.
He's very much a diplomat.
Studying book study.
Book studies, yes.
Type thing. Okay. And Mike?
So I will be playing Cade Bolger. He is a Halfling Stout. He's got a little bit of an odd background just because of the fact of who he is and where he came from, but he was born in Qatar, and he found himself constantly having to defend himself. He was always being picked on, almost like a chubby child. And he started down the road of becoming one of the guards, one of the town soldiers. But because of his size, they always stuck him in having to go and listen in at the taverns to try and find out from the travelers what was going on, what kind of trouble was happening, because these towns are trading outposts. And unfortunately, a lot of things and shady things tend to happen, especially in some of the lesser known bars. So they always stuck him over where he could kind of not really blend in, but disappear, so to speak. So he was always eager to prove himself, and when some of the patrols came up, he would constantly volunteer for them. And on one of those patrols, his entire patrol was ambushed by a neighboring town's militia. When he was overrun and his friends were basically killed, a being came to him pretending to be, maybe it is, who knows at this point, Helm, and offered him a way to use his power to defend himself. And from that point going forward, he kind of started down the life of a warlock. At this point, he was kind of the baron of the town that he was at really didn't trust him, so she kicked him out. Basically sent him on a bogus quest to go start finding people to help with retribution against this other town. So he's out and about right now, and he ran into a barbarian friend that he's running around with right now, that he's in the midst of trying to recruit.
Actually did recruit. We built all of this a week ago, and so we did a little play test, and we ran. See, one thing about Percy is that he just can't settle on something. So he has built so many characters. I'm glad we finally are starting, so I don't have to listen to him build characters anymore.
By week 2,
that's why
we'll have another character.
Okay.
And another NPC.
That's right.
If you need to kill anybody, Rick, just kill my character.
Absolutely. Trust me, I will. Of course, then I know I'll be worried about that when I'm playing in your game.
I'm going to find a way to resurrect his butt.
That's right.
Every time.
There you
You
go.
can jump in front of anything for my character.
Will do.
So
My
anyway,
character
they ran a
does
little
that
campaign, mini campaign, an adventure, and they went into some mines to basically there were people were disappearing in the mines. It was a dwarven mine, and they overheard them talking about it, and the two of them said, well, we'll go check it out. So they agreed to get paid to go in and clear the mine and find out what was going on. And they found there were some crystal spiders in there and some crystal arachnids, which are spiders, that they had to fight and kill. And they closed a portal when they did that. But crystals were growing in this mine that had started growing recently. So there's some sort of overlaps going on, possibly. They'd never seen crystals like that. Well, while they were down there, the first thing that Percy's barbarians started doing was smashing crystals to take them, So
do they look like the crystal that's embedded in his arm, or
Different character, but no.
oh, different character?
Yeah.
Yes, it was a different character, yes.
Okay.
That was the one he was going to play before he decided he didn't want to play that one. So
We won't go into why.
Right. So, but anyway, so he, when he got done, they found the people, and their minds had been drained, but they slowly came back. And apparently when the spiders bit them, they drained their wisdom out of them until they became just zombies. I mean, they didn't really use them for anything. They were just the zombies, but it came back. But he saw this pendant, this crystal pendant on one of the dwarven women, and he said, look, I'll trade everything. And he rescued her husband. She was like, oh yes. And he took the pendant. So anyway, so he ended up with that pendant. But so we're gonna back to Percy. So Percy, you have basically been kind of almost in mourning for quite a while, and your friend Alexi's been trying to get you to build you up, to get you out, to get you out of your funk over Mirabelle, and he has been studying. There was a shard that embedded in your arm, a crystal shard, and he said it looked very much like a piece, like a splinter, like it was like of a tree or something, a piece of a tree, and he wanted to study it. So he's called you, into the forest, Neverwinter Wood, to talk to you about that, and that's where we find ourselves now. So he says, so how you doing, Nevi? Have you Doing anything exciting lately? Anything to take your mind off of things?
Well, Alexi, not really. Been kind of wandering. Have you found anything about the shard?
No, it's very, very curious. I can't seem to penetrate it. It's when I divine on it and cast my divination magic, it's like I either get two things. I either get I see a crystal and it just keeps getting brighter and brighter until that's all I can see is just blinding white light, or there's a fire and it's emanating darkness, and this darkness just keeps going until that's all I can see.
Well, Alexi, you're a smart centaur, but fire don't make dark.
I understand this, but this fire makes dark. I don't understand it, but it's like it radiates. It's not like it's pulling in light. It's emanating darkness. So I haven't really been able to figure out too much on that front, but I have done more research into what happened to you, and I've discovered that there's another world that's made contact with this one. And crystals like, I won't say crystals like this, because I actually uncovered some crystals. And these crystals, this is special. This is, if you look at it and you're a druid, you can see, it's like this is alive, or it was alive. You can see almost the veins in the crystal of a tree. If I were to cut a piece of a tree off and compare the two, what could create this? I don't know. But
well, wizards probably could do it.
I don't know that wizards could. I'm pretty good at what I do. I am good at what I do. You know that.
Yeah, but you don't know all the spells, right?
Oh, well, of course not. Who does? I
probably
focus
these
on
wizards.
divinations. Oh, these wizards? What wizards?
I told whoever made this crystal. I don't know.
I don't know that it was made, is my point.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't know exactly what that means. Sometimes you have a hunch. I think this was grown. And it was grown like this. It was grown, I don't know. But I think maybe you need to find out. I think maybe this would be good for you.
I know all the plant gods and demi-deities, and none of them can do that.
Yes, but we're talking about another world here. We don't know what...
You keep saying another world.
Okay.
Like another plane? Like I know about the
It's
planes.
a dimension or a plane. There's been some connection between the two. The dwarves have actually started trading with these people. Apparently one day a group of dragonborn came out of the mists of the mountain and said, here we are. They call themselves the Durakaka or something like that. And the name of the land, I know that is Melanor. But they've set up outposts in Mirabar, and they've started trades with the dwarf. They've got regular caravans going now. And that's how I've been able to acquire some of these other crystals. The dwarves have been trading with the other dwarves, and these crystals have been starting to, spread throughout the Sword Coast. But I got this. But one thing about them.
They're trading pieces of dead crystal trees.
No.
From a weird space.
No, they've got like figurines and crystals, and they say they're magic, but I don't know that they keep their magic, because the ones I've got, no magic seems to come. I don't feel any magic. I don't see anything from it, so I don't know. I don't know about that. But yours is almost indestructible. I've tried heating it. I've tried cooling it. It remains cool to the touch no matter what you do to it. It just remains cool to the touch. But one thing that was very unusual, one morning I was studying out in the wood, and one of my students was out and she was singing, and it was beautiful. And this crystal started to vibrate. And it was the first time I'd seen anything, I've been able to have any sort of impact on this thing. and it started to vibrate, and I just felt, I don't know, I felt something. And so she stopped. I yelled at her, and she stopped, and she came over, and we couldn't start it again. I don't know, and I tried talking to it, and she tried singing again, so I don't know, but it's the first time that anything seemed to have any effect on it. So I don't know what it is. But, here's your crystal back. Perhaps you can find out more. I don't know. Maybe there's some answers in Mirabar about this, and the Dragonborn.
Well, I don't like the dwarves, and I don't much care for the Dragonborn either, but if there's a chance that I can find Mirabelle, then Mirabar is where I'm going.
Yes, go to Mirabelle. Go to Mirabar to find Mirabelle. Yes, sounds like a plan. And while you have the crystal in your hand, and you're looking at it, and you're pondering, what you want to do, you're thinking deeply about the crystal and about what it means, because he's brought up some emotions, some deep emotions that you've been trying to block out. You're longing for Mirabelle and you're wanting to find her, but you've kind of partially given up. And
sure.
So you've got a lot of emotion and you're just looking deep into it, and you notice a little light. You can barely see a little bit of light deep inside the crystal. And all of a sudden it starts feeling warm. And it gets warmer and warmer in your hand, and the light starts getting brighter and brighter. And you feel a tingling on your wrist. And you look down and you see just a little something forming, a glow forming on your wrist, too. And that's where we'll move over to Mike. So, Mr. Mike, you're building an army.
Yes, I am.
I see. So, you've been traveling the long road here recently. And what you've been doing is, well, you got your barbarian friend who's a great, great strong arm, okay?
He's
Sergeant
not so
at
smart,
arms.
but he's a good guy.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You're the brains of the operation.
We are dumbasses.
If it's anything like the last encounter we had, yes, I would agree with you.
Okay.
But just don't go punching any dwarves in the knee. So.
I can't make promises.
Okay.
I can't make promises. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
It did, and it really didn't work out too bad for you. Could have, but it didn't. So, you've been trying to build an army, and you and your barbarian friend have been traveling around, and you basically rescued. So there was some brigands that were, robbing some people, and you decided to be noble because you're trying to get your reputation back from the Baroness who's trying to sully it. And so you went in and you fought the brigands, and you rescued it, and you gave the people returned their goods, and they gave you a reward for that. And you were like, hey, this isn't bad. And then when you were going to take the brigands in, you started talking to some of them, and you realized some of them were just poor, hungry, farmers. One or two of them were not good people, and you took them in, but you convinced a couple of them to join you. You said, hey, we're building a little force to join the Baroness, and you can have regular jobs, and you can be someone, and you can get a place in the barony, and so you went, you know what, this kind of worked pretty good. So pretty soon you just started kind of like patrolling the long road, and this went on, and you've kind of built a little reputation for yourself, and you really don't trust the Baroness either, so you kind of want to make sure that you get a little army of your own. You're really not building her an army. You're trying to build yourself an army. And one day you're traveling along with your friend, and you are sitting down and eating, and you're talking, and you've got about 15 or 20 people with you, and all of a sudden you feel this crystal pendant on your neck, and it starts kind of like vibrating slightly. You feel it getting warm.
I'll kind of take it and not pull it off, but just kind of pull it into view.
And you're checking it out, and you see a little bit of light deep inside of it.
I'll look over at my barbarian friend and go,
Do you see this?
See what? Please.
That's not how he sounded.
Good to go.
What are you looking at?
It's vibrating. It's getting hot.
"This is the
How
stuff-
could I see it getting hot?
I don't know. Here, touch it." I'll stick it up against his face.
Ooh,
You don't see it.
is that this hot?
You don't feel the warmth.
I know, but I'm entertaining it.
Oh.
I don't want to be kneecapped.
You've seen him in action.
Yes.
So I'll take it back and it's like, just start almost hyper focusing on it.
Okay. And you start staring deeper into it, and the light just keeps expanding, and it just keeps getting hotter, and you feel yourself not being pulled in, but you can't seem to take your eyes off it.
My precious.
And that's where we'll move over to Tama. So, Tama's had a hard day at the temple. She's been, cleaning herself and doing whatever, little chores that they have at the temple, which she does because she has to do it if she wants to eat, the things they make her do. And she gets done with her morning chores, and she says her prayers to the cat god, and trying to figure out what she wants to do for the day. And at one point in time, she was out traveling, running some errands, and she ran across a dwarven merchant. She had to pick up some supplies for the temple, and so she went to see this dwarven merchant. And while she was there, he had a bunch of crystal figurines. Well, he had this one of a cat.
He did have.
Yes. What can I get for you today, my dear? What do you need?
I hand him the list.
And
I look at the cat.
Yeah, and what?
And I look at the cat.
Okay. Okay. Let me go get this stuff for you, and I'll be back. And so he kind of runs into the back, and he's getting his stuff, and you wander over to the cat, and you pick it up, and it just fascinates you. It's my precious. And it's flawless. I mean, it's like a real cat, and you've never seen anything like that before. And he starts coming.
This would fit really well in my little amulet pouch.
Well, I got all your stuff.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So is the temple going to need anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
You did get the extra cream.
I don't see extra cream on here.
Yeah, we needed an extra.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So 2 creams.
Yes.
Any sugar?
No.
No sugar.
Just the
Okay.
cream.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. I'll get you some extra cream. And so he wanders back there and comes back and he says, "Okay. Well, this will do." And I'll just put it on the bill, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, here you go. And
Thank you.
thank you, Row. Interesting name for a cat. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Row.
Thank you.
And tell the temple we appreciate
Oh,
what
we
they do.
appreciate what you do. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you wander off, and you go back to the temple, and so you find yourself just many times just sitting there, just mesmerized by this. In fact, it becomes a thing. One of your favorite things to do is just to stare into this crystal cat, because it's just, you can't believe it. And one day you've gotten done with all your daily chores, and you go find your favorite spot up in one of the high spires of the temple, and there's this beautiful window that overlooks Neverwinter Wood, and the Sword Mountains are in the back, and you just feel this cool breeze, and you're just laying there, and the sun is beating down on you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like it's perfect, and a little hungry. You feel a little hungry, but you know what? It's just too perfect. I don't feel like getting up and going getting something to eat. And so you're staring at it, and you notice that there are little streaks of gold inside, and it's black too. And there's little streaks of kind of gold deep inside, and it just sometimes when you're looking at it, it's like it's looking back at you. Okay, and it's just so perfect, and you're staring deep into it, and then you notice something that you hadn't seen before, and you're staring at it, and oh my gosh, what is that? And it's a little light is forming deep inside. It's a heart, maybe.
I struck
Oh.
really loudly.
And cleaning it.
Petting it and cleaning it and purring.
And it's feeling warm too.
My tail may be switching.
Oh. And all of a sudden too, you feel a little tingle on your wrist. And you look at that, and you can see there's a little glow on your wrist, and that's odd. So it's kind of sparkly too. Yeah, it doesn't clean off. And then the light seems to, and it pulls you back in, and you're staring at it, and it's just getting brighter and brighter.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Mr. Peter. So, you've been running errands, basically you feel like, freaking, this is boring. I'm an errand boy. I want to be out studying. I can do great things, and I know one day you'll be able to, really show them what you can do. But right now, you're basically just, being a diplomat. Unfortunately, you're good at talking to people.
Yeah.
And they've taken advantage of that because you can go in and get things done. And so they sent you to Tribor to basically pick up, some documents and things and some stuff to take back to Waterdeep, actually.
Okay.
And you're there, and the mayor of the town, he says, "You're a wizard, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
I just bought some stuff from this dwarf, and he said it's magic, and it's this crystal stuff, and I haven't been able to, I haven't been able to do any magic. None of my people here seem to think there's any magic. I'm wondering if I was taken advantage of, and I was wondering if you could look at it, maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking I overpaid, maybe I got taken, but, there's these different figures, here's a duck, here's a small little mountain, here's a little tree, and there's a goat. They look really cool. I've never seen anything like it, so they're pretty in their own right, but is there anything you could, can you see?
By all means, give me a little bit and I can take it. I'll look at it.
Okay, if you would. I know that's not really what you're here for, but I figured since you're here, I might as well.
I can help.
Okay, well, fantastic. So, he's got a little space, you can go and,
do ritual casting of detect magic after ritual casting of detect magic after, each little one as I go through.
And you spend the time, you're doing, and you're not getting anything. One thing, the little tree, it doesn't detect magic, but there's just something about it that you feel drawn to it.
Okay.
It's not, it's not magical. At least not any magic that you're familiar with. And you've heard something about these, because you've heard, people in the area have been hearing something about these crystals. That people have, been buying them. The dwarves have been trading these crystals now for a little while. And so you're seeing it here and there, and you're actually kind of fascinated because you've heard the stories, but this is the first time you've actually had any in your hand because they're very rare. And, but you can't tell anything, but perhaps in Waterdeep, if, that you do know a wizard there that is a much higher level than you, and perhaps if he wanted, because you make this run regularly, that you could take these with you, and he might, one of these other wizards might be able to see something that you can't.
Okay.
And so that's your thought. So you go back to the mayor.
Yeah, and pretty much tell him that same thing, word for word. I can't see anything here, but if you don't mind, I can take him back to Waterdeep, and when I come back, I'll tell you what, because, I'm not good enough at this to see anything. There's something here, though.
Well, I don't really want to part with them, but if they're magic, I'd really like to know.
Would you be willing to part with one of them?
Perhaps. Which one would you...
It was the tree, right?
Right.
Yeah, pull the tree out. This one.
Okay. Any particular reason that one?
There was something. It wasn't magic that I was familiar with, but there was something.
Well, okay. Yeah, I mean, I see you regularly, so I guess there's no harm. I know you'll be back. If you're not back, you know that wouldn't be good for you. So, okay, yeah. Sure. I think you're due back in about a cycle. So, yeah. Okay. That'll work. Just find out what you can and bring it back, and then maybe we might send another one if we find out something, because, I mean, he told me that they had wondrous powers, and, I've heard some of these stories about these crystals. I mean, I was excited that I actually got to buy some, and they do look pretty cool, but I paid a lot of money for them, so I'm feeling a little upset that I'm not able to really see anything from them. So, okay, yeah, take the tree, bring it back when you come back, and I think that'll
I'll
work.
have the sages and want a deep look at it.
Thank you very much. So, on your way back, while you're traveling back, you do some more ritual casting on it. You try different things. You start trying to affect it, like I think you have Firebolt and some things like that.
Yeah.
And you decide to cast some magic at it, and nothing phases it. And, you can't chip it, you can't, And one night you're sitting around, the campfire, and you're thinking about it again, and you notice something different. And so you look in it, and you're like, wow, what is that? That is very interesting. And you see a little light forming deep inside it, and you can feel it getting warm in your hand. And you're like, that's unusual.
As soon as it gets warm, I put it down and I just look at it this way.
Okay. So you're staring at it, and it gets brighter and brighter. And you feel, you can start, as it gets brighter, you can see that the heat begins to expand. And this is what every one of you feels when this happens to you. So your wrist begins to itch, and you notice there's a little glow on your wrist. And as you're looking at it, you look at the tree, and you're like, there just seems to be some connection there.
Try picking it up and going like this and see if anything happens as I pull it away and bring it back.
You start to pick it up, and it burns your finger. I mean, it feels hot, but you can't let it go.
Oh, wonderful.
And it's not burning like pain. It's not intense pain, but you can feel the heat, and it's slowly running up your arm. And the light keeps getting brighter and brighter. And the white light keeps expanding. Eventually, it starts filling the area around you. Then you find yourself in the middle of a mist of light. And you're looking around, and it's just a fog. And it's shimmering in different colors, and it's swirling. And it's quite beautiful. And pretty soon you start noticing images in the fog. You can't really make them out, but as you look deeper, you think you see something maybe that you recognize, and then it's gone in a flash. And then something else catches your eye. It's always at the edge of your vision. You can't really focus on it. But every once when you can seem to focus on something, it seems very far away. And then as you really try to concentrate, it's gone, or something flits by your face. And they're images of things that, seem familiar, but very vague and distant at the same time, but like recollections, you know. And the vague reflections are moving so fast that you can't make out any one thing. The images, they're familiar and distant. And the light keeps getting brighter. And as it gets brighter, it starts burning the mist away. And the images are being sucked in as it grows. As the light gets brighter, you notice that the images start darting in. They're being pulled in. And pretty soon this radiance is all you can see. It's all around you. It's blinding. But it's not like you can close your eyes. It's like it's just burning into your brain. And it's just like every synapse in your brain is exploding at the same time. But all of a sudden you just feel this peace and this bliss. And it's like like this peace and contentment you've never known before in your life. Like everything in your life has had meaning leading to this one moment. Everything was destined to this one moment. And you lose consciousness, dreaming of all the things you've experienced. It's like a piece of thread being pulled through a keyhole back to your beginning and peace. And then you open your eyes. And you're laying in the grass. And you're surrounded by large crystal trees. They're staring at the most beautiful sight. It's incredible as you look around. But nothing compares to the sight of a young elven girl standing before you, holding a large clear crystal hung around her neck on a silver chain. And you see a small white star glowing brightly inside it. It seems to be burning in its center. But even that does not compare with the radiance of her smile. And she's just beaming down at you. It worked!